And so we begin episode 2.
Wow.
What are you doing? That's my job, you little bastard.
What exactly is your job? Are you talking to someone? Nobody spoke. What are you doing? Do we have an insane instructor?
He might have some mental deficiencies.
Took one too many clubs to the head in his years of service.
All right. The next thing I want to discuss with you to keep you alive, even though I don't think it's going to work, is the idea that you do not have to just sit there and do attacks every single turn. You can wait to see and do something specific based on what somebody else does. What I'm saying is, maybe you've got that orc over there and he's running at you, and you decide, if I run towards him, running makes it harder for me to hit him. I'm going to wait until he gets close enough, and then I'm going to hit him. That is something you can do. So, at this point, the dummies, they don't do enough. I want each of you to line up and face each other. Try to make sure that you won't kill each other as you do it.
I pair up with Alexa.
Alright. I paired up with Burke.
All right, Amar, you get to pair up with Brachius.
I stare him dead in the eye.
All right. Now, at this point, we're going to be doing and trying to do a few different things with somebody who can actually dodge, defend, parry, and try to do things to make it a wee bit harder for you to actually succeed. Hitting a dummy was hard enough for all of you, so we'll see if any of you actually accomplish anything while we try to do this. So let's go back to the basics. I want each of you to try to hit each other. So we're going to be going into combat. So Sergeant Brachius. Okay, and here's the other thing too. This is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. When you attack somebody, you do not have to use your full strength. Okay? That changes how much damage you do. In this case, we're just going to assume that everybody... Actually, let's do this. Sergeant Brachius hands out practice swords to everybody that don't do any real damage. Phelan, assume you're only using like strength 1, so you won't really do any real damage. Fair enough? If we were actually like doing combat...
It'd be hilarious if you killed Alexa in the first.
Just stab her through the heart.
I mean, you can choose to do that, but... All right. So, Sergeant Brachius gets to go first. He's going to roll to attack Amar. All right, so he's doing a regular attack, and he succeeded. Now, at this point, Amar, you can dodge, you can parry, or you can block. Or do nothing if you just want to get hit.
I want to parry.
Okay. Parry is done at your weapon skill divided in half plus 3. So what is your weapon skill with the weapon that you have right now?
12.
Well, don't we
12
have
divided in half
practice
to
swords?
6. So we'll assume that you have a sword that is appropriate to whatever weapon you would normally use. So it's
Okay.
a wooden dagger or wooden sword or whatever.
Gotcha.
Okay. So your parry would be a 9. So you need to roll against parry. I believe parry is not in your combat thing because it is based on weapon skill. So it's against a 9, and you succeeded. So you parried the attack. Okay. So you take 0 damage.
Yeah.
All right. Burke, you're next.
All right, so then I attack Archibald.
Okay. So roll for attack.
And it is a
Rolled
success.
an 11. It's a success. Arch.
Alright,
He gets to do anything because he's facing away from him.
that is true.
Well, considering that we did not line up during combat maneuvers in an actual combat scenario, I'm assuming that you're facing him. So why don't you go ahead and rotate your character and face him?
Alright.
Chief! Chief!
So, I'm gonna dodge.
So go ahead and roll. And it's a success.
Alright.
So Burkest misses you. Archibald, it's your turn in combat.
Alright. So I'm gonna take my knife.
And you guys can use any of the attack stuff that we've learned. So if you want to evaluate, you want to all-out attack, whatever, this is just an opportunity to try to get a feel for combat as we go. and how the rolls work, how the turn orders work, right? So,
Okay, actually, I'm gonna evaluate.
okay, you evaluate, so you get a +1 on your next turn. Alexa tries to just attack Phelan.
Oh, attack. Kill the horse.
Phelan.
The look on her face is obviously pained as she swings her short sword, and it looks like she really does not want to.
But suddenly she levels up.
Now, do I have does size modifier come into play here?
It does actually. Sorry. So she would get a +1 to her hit because she is. So if you. So yep.
Badass horse.
So size modifiers, and we should have done that for Burkest and
Oh yeah, because I would have had a +1 to hit.
right. So if you're hitting something larger than you, we're doing it where each size modifier larger, you get a +1 to hit. Each size modifier smaller that you're trying to hit, you get a -1 to hit.
Is that so? Like, if I were to parry, do I also get a -1, or is it just I
No.
parry normal?
You just parry normal.
Okay.
It would get way too complex otherwise.
Okay.
So she does get a +1 to try to hit you.
Which she did the hit.
Ha.
1 sec, guys.
And she does hit me.
Good.
I just scream, "You bitch!"
Ow!
It's that Family Guy bit where he goes,
Ah! Ah!
Okay. So where are we at now?
I tried to parry unsuccessfully,
Okay, you tried to parry unsuccessfully.
and then I scream, "You bitch!" And then I go, "No, dear, it's fine." And I like lift my front hoof up and like put it on her shoulder.
Well,
Which
she hasn't even-
crushes
she-
her to the ground.
she hasn't even rolled for damage yet.
Oh fuck!
no, yeah. Critical hit. Right to the jugular. The horse jump.
All right, so
Okay,
I'm gonna have her roll for damage. It was a swinging attack. We're not gonna do the full damage. She would have done 3 damage. Except this is why this is important too. Phelan is wearing armor. So what is the damage resistance on your barding on your body?
I don't fucking know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Is it plate armor?
Horse mail armor.
Horse mail armor.
It's a horse female armor.
God damn it! You made
Okay.
that joke.
It's a lot thinner.
All right, I can look this up real quick.
Well, and if we're gonna be honest, I mean, female armor it only covers the chest.
Right.
Yeah.
And like a thong. It's a
So
metal
okay,
piece.
so male barding has a damage resistance of, if it's male, 4 or 2, based on something that I don't see here. Oh, use the lower one against crushing attacks. Gotcha. So it's a damage resistance of 4.
Okay. So I
So-
take damage.
No, you don't. You take 0 damage.
Okay, then I don't call her a bitch.
So she would have. This is part of the. So damage resistance against armor. So the damage resistance will subtract the damage that's actually done. Okay. So she would have swung, done 3 damage, but the armor protected Phelan. So he took 0 damage.
And I go, "Well struck, my dear."
Alexa smiles appreciatively.
God, get
All
a
right.
room.
What?
Alexa casts a dirty glare at Burkest.
I wink.
Just say the word, my love, and I will kill him.
Oh, I'm considering it. All right, Amar, it's your turn.
I'm taking a swing at the old man.
Brachius. All right. And it's a hit. And old man is going to defend.
Good thing you're defending.
All right.
God, now all I can think of is Brachiosaurus was a wee little man was he.
And he failed. You hit him. Go ahead and roll for damage.
Well, for real this time.
And you did 1 impaling damage. He's wearing leather armor, so impaling damage converts to crushing damage. So you didn't impale me, but you did do crushing damage. Now, this is why it's important. So you're the first one to deal damage in combat, right? Against another player here.
Yeah.
By default, you are aiming at a person's torso. Okay?
Okay.
The type of damage makes a difference. Impaling damage deals twice the amount of damage. Okay? So if I wasn't wearing armor, I would have taken 2 damage. Because I'm wearing leather armor, even though you didn't pierce and do impaling damage, I still take crushing damage. Okay? So I take 1 crushing damage, and crushing has no extra modifiers. So Brachiosaurus would have taken 1 damage from your attack. That doesn't work against plate armor. It only works against leather. Okay? And impaling attacks specifically. Okay. So that was Amar. Phelan, you're up next.
I will.
No more horsing around.
Ba-dum,
I will bite at Alexa.
Okay. All right, and then Alexa is going to have to try to dodge.
If somebody parries my bite with their sword, does that fuck me up?
I feel like it should. Smack me with the flat side.
Yes, you would take damage against their weapon.
Yeah.
But he has head armor, right?
Yeah, but this is a bite. It would cut his mouth.
True.
Yeah, they just shove their sword down my throat. Like that's.
Yeah.
Phelan can deep throat, but not like that.
All right.
You'd like
She's
it
gonna.
anyway.
I want to horse deep throat.
She is going to block with her shield, or attempt to block with her shield.
So is that the only time you can use block if you have a shield?
Yes, you do need a shield to use block.
Okay, I was curious.
And she succeeded. So she gets her shield up just in time to keep you from nipping off her finger as your teeth clack together.
You kiss her shield. Romantic.
All right. It's Brachiosaurus' turn again. So Brachiosaurus is going to use an all-out attack. He's going to feint and then attack. So since he's feinting against you, Amar, you need to roll your weapon skill. So first is the contest. So you roll your weapon skill, and Brachiosaurus will roll his weapon skill.
I would assume you roll yours first.
Doesn't matter. I mean, if I fail, then it won't matter what you roll, but you might as well just roll them at the same time to save time. All right, so he succeeded. You had a margin of success of 1. His was 4. And since he's doing an all-out attack, he can attack on the same turn. So he's going to attack you again. And he's got a minus. You will have a -3 if he gets a hit and you have to defend. And he gets a hit. Now you have to defend. You get a -3 to defense because he used feint.
And then do I use one of my dodge or parry, or do I?
You can use dodge or you can parry. You don't have a shield, so you can't block.
It's a -3. Okay.
And you failed. So then he would do his damage. I'm going to go ahead and roll for damage so we can work through that real quick. So he was doing a swinging attack. So he would do 8 damage. Are you wearing armor?
Not presently, because I didn't know if we were getting supplied armor or.
Okay, so you would take 8 damage then.
I'm still standing.
But we're pulling our punches, right? So I don't want to actually deal 8 damage and deal with that. So he pulls his punch at the last second, and you take a minor scrape. Okay, so Burke, what's that?
Does cutting damage have anything special with it?
It does. And we'll go over that after this. We're going to go through targeting different body parts and the types of damage and what they do to different body parts. Burke, it's your turn.
So I am going to double attack,
Okay.
which that is just I attack twice, correct?
Yep.
No modifiers
And
or
now
anything.
you get a +1 modifier for size difference.
Yep.
So because he is one size larger than you.
Yep.
So you actually get a +1 modifier to hit.
So there's my first one.
So hang on. Now he has to choose. Now he can defend.
Yep.
I dodge.
Okay. So roll for dodge. And you failed. So Burke, roll for damage. And you did 3 damage. Archibald, are you wearing any armor?
Cloth armor, I don't know what the benefits are.
Damage resistance. Cloth armor has a DR of 1.
Okay.
So you would take 1 less damage if we were doing full damage. So you would have taken 2 damage from that attack.
All right.
Okay. Burkest, are you pulling your punch or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And normally you have to declare that beforehand, but for the purposes of this, and we want to see what those are, we're going to go ahead and roll that. Okay. Archibald, it's your turn.
All right. So I evaluated last turn.
You did,
So,
but you have to remember that you get a -1 for size modifiers because he's
Okay.
1 size smaller than you, so it's a little bit harder for you to hit him.
so then my attack would be normal.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to attack with my knife.
And it's a success.
All right.
All right. Burkest,
I will parry.
defense. Okay.
So that is the weapon skill divided by 2 plus 3.
Correct.
So it would be a 10.
Okay.
And then I just roll 3d6.
Yep. And you failed.
Damn.
All right. So Archibald, go ahead and roll for damage.
All right. That would be this.
Now remember,
All right.
minimum is 1. Okay.
All right.
So unless it was crushing, but you're using a dagger
Small-
essentially.
Yeah.
So it would be a cutting. So minimum 1. Burkest, are you wearing armor?
I'm wearing a leather jacket, which has a damage
You-
resistance of 1.
Okay, so you would take 0 damage. And there you go. I feel like you might still take crushing damage on swing. I mean, that seems right? Like if I were to swing a sword at you, yeah. So you take 1 crushing damage. It's not just impaling, I believe. So.
Okay.
So you would take 1 crushing damage. All right, which when we get to the body parts and targeting it and multipliers that happen based on damage types, it'll make more sense why that's important. Okay. Alexa's going to go ahead and try a strong attack. So we'll roll for hit first. It's a success. Phelan, defend.
Since somebody's done it before, can I do a dodge and retreat?
You may. So what a dodge and retreat does is you move backwards 1 hex during your dodge. You get a bonus to your dodge, I believe, of +3. It's already in your sheets, so you can just use that. When you do a dodge and retreat and you move back, right, at the end of my turn, even though I attacked, I can still take 1 step, and so I will probably step forward with you. Since you failed, you did get hit, and I get an extra +2 to my damage roll. So go ahead and move back 1.
So even if
Still-
you fail, you still move back.
Yep, you still got hit, but you are moving.
Okay.
So, and then it was a swinging attack, and then I did +2, so I did 3 damage. But you have
4.
4 damage resistance, and it's male, so you take no damage. Okay. Amar.
I'm just gonna swing at Brockus.
Okay. And you miss. Phelan. And I did. Alexa did step to follow you. She's continuing to press forward rather than let you get away.
Okay. I will. Of course, drawing back here at the end, I'm going to use my front hooves and attack her.
Okay.
And that's where I get the -1, right? Because she's smaller.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it made the difference.
Fucking miss her.
You flail your hooves uselessly in front of Alexa's face. She doesn't even flinch.
He knows what's up.
Okay, so at this point, the campaign's not going to have a ton of combat. This isn't just a straight combat-oriented campaign. Okay, how do you guys feel in general about the flow of combat?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty confident.
Okay, all right. I want each of you stupid little gits to go back up in front of your dummies, and we're going to talk about different ways to hit somebody and where to hit them.
So I'm gonna move
I move back in front of my dummy.
right there.
Are you reach close or you reach 1?
Close.
So you got to be technically in the same hex. So I'll put you in the hex where you're touching the dummy. And again, if like for example, when you were fighting me, if you were underneath of Brachius, it would make it really hard to see your token. So the assumption is you're in close range.
Okay.
So in that case, for example, Phalon, when you actually move back, because your horn attack is a close range. So when you move back, you were technically already in the hex that Alexa was in. So you wouldn't have actually moved your character. You just would have been out of close reach. So you would have had to step forward to attack her again. She could have stayed there and continued to attack you because her weapon has reach 1. If we forget these things in mid-combat, I'm not going to worry about them. We'll just keep playing. So don't worry too much about it. But those are things that we might, that might come up as we go. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to tell each of you to attack a different part of the body of the dummy in front of you. First things first. Burkest. I want you to do what you normally do and attack the torso of the dummy in front of you. Now you hit your dummy. It's important to understand that different weapons will do different things when hitting a torso of a human or anything else that has, vitals within the torso. So, if you have a small piercing type of weapon, say like a pin, you'll do less damage when you're hitting the torso. If you've got a regular piercing weapon, so Burkest, if you'd stabbed the lad, you'd do your normal damage. However, if you cut him, your damage is up by 1.5 times, and if you take a big impaling weapon, you do double the damage. So that means, for example, Phalon's horn is impaling. If he impales somebody in the torso, he does double the damage after damage reduction. So if Phalon impales a dummy that has damage reduction 2, does 4 damage, he would do 2 damage, and it would be doubled for impaling to 4 damage again. Does that make sense?
Yep. So impaling the torso is ×2, but if you slash the torso, it's ×1.5.
Correct. So go ahead. So if you were slashing a torso, let's assume that nobody here has damage resistance. So go ahead and roll for damage. Slashing attack. Sharp knife, because you're swinging it.
Yep.
You get 1.5 damage. There are no half hit points, and damage is rounded down.
So
you do 1 still. Yeah. Yeah. All right. But after Burkest here, let's do Archibald.
All right.
Archibald, I want you. Let's see, what kind of a weapon do you have there, Archibald?
We got a knife.
You got a knife. I want you to try to hit the lover in his skull, right on the head.
All right.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. That is a smaller target. So when you're rolling to hit the skull, it's a -7 to hit. So you're going to roll your skill -7.
All right, so let's do that.
The only way you could hit in that case is if you rolled a crit success.
Okay. All right. Skull out of the option.
Now, if you hit the skull, a skull has a natural damage resistance of 2. So if you had hit, let's pretend you did. Let's pretend you rolled a crit success, and your crit table came up as a standard, right? So then go ahead and roll for damage.
All right.
So it has a natural damage resistance of 2, so you would have done 2 damage. However, it has a ×4 wounding modifier. So you would have done 8 damage against the head. Okay. And your target now has to make a health check roll to not get knocked down. So let's assume his health is at 10. So in this case, your target would then have to roll against health. And I'll roll some 3d6 here. And it rolled a 5, so he failed. So if you're fighting an opponent, your opponent would be stunned and knocked down. And in fact, in this case, because he failed by 5, you would have actually knocked him unconscious.
So then the way the wounding works, so if you hit for 2 damage and it has a damage resistance of 2, it's just 0. But if then whatever damage goes through is multiplied by 4?
Yes.
For which one is that?
This is for the skull. And I don't expect you guys to remember all the details. I will have this as reference. But this way, at least you have an idea, okay? It's more important that you know what you can target and like what. And as we go through this, you can be like, that one might work really well for me, right? Okay. Archibald, you're next. What kind of weapon are you using over there? Is it that dagger?
Yes.
Oh, wait, we just did Archibald.
Yeah, you literally just said the exact sentence to
Alexa.
him like 2 minutes ago.
Alexa.
Set a timer for 5 minutes.
I want you to try to hit the poor bastard in front of you. Right in the face. All right, so she's going to be rolling at the face. Face is -5 to hit. Okay?
Yeah.
So she's going to roll at the face using her short sword. -5. And she misses. Now, if she had hit, if you hit somebody in the face, most helmets have an opening on the face. There's now helmets that don't. If the helmet has an opening on the face, it does, you ignore the helmet's damage resistance. Okay? The target then rolls against knockdown at health -5. So the same thing that we demonstrated with Archibald, but not as bad as hitting them in the skull. And if you get a crit hit, there's special things that can happen with critical hits to the head.
Does the face also have the ×4 wounding?
It does not. Amar, you're up next. You can either go for the eyes, you can go for the neck, or you can go for the groin. Tell me which one you want to do.
I'll go for the groin.
All right. So go ahead and swing at the groin. All right. So groin is a -3 to hit.
Yep.
All right. And you hit him. Now, if you hit somebody in the groin, it don't matter who they are. It's a sensitive area. And they will take double the time to recover from shock. What this means is, one of the things we haven't talked about yet is shock. If you take any damage on your next turn, your IQ and Dex rolls are any of them based on IQ or dexterity. So this is your weapon stuff, casting spells, etc. Will take a penalty based on how much damage you took, up to a -4. So in this case, the minimum is 1. So he would have done 1 damage. And this person then would get a -2 their next turn, up until their next turn, and through their next turn for anything that is based off of Dex or IQ. Okay? And then he would also have to roll against knockdown because getting hit in the gonads hurts and you might fall down at health -5. All right. Phelan.
Yes.
I want you to try to hit him in the heart. Or any other vital. It'd be the heart, the lungs, or the kidneys. Go ahead and pretend you're trying to stab him in one of those.
I mean, the heart sounds good.
Okay. So the vitals is the heart, the lungs, or the kidney, and it's -3 to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a couple things here. So like vitals is impaling or piercing attacks only. So if you have a sword or a dagger, you need to use stabbing to do this. Okay?
Oh, here we go. Sorry. I was under Alexa's sheet and I was real confused. Okay, so I'm using my horn, and you said -3?
-3 to hit. You hit. It's a dummy. You get roll for damage.
When blood comes out. Alarming.
11.
Piercing and impaling attacks against vitals do a ×3 damage modifier.
Fudge, yeah, 33 damage, bitch.
You just wiped out pretty much any opponent you'd be going up against.
There's going to be a lot of hearts on that horn.
All right. So we don't need to keep going through each of these individually, but I'm going to go ahead and so we talked about vitals. We talked about the skull. The eye, you can target the eye specifically. Again, you must be an impaling or piercing attack. You can't swing your sword at the eye. You have to try to stab the eye. If you do 1/10 of their total HP and damage, you blind it. So, for example, Brickcast, how much health do you have?
6.
So, if somebody did at least 0.6 damage, they would blind the eye that they hit. It has a ×4 wounding modifier, and the target or the victim must roll against knockdown at health -10.
And what's the modifier to chance to hit?
-9. It is excessively hard to hit. It is the hardest thing to hit. If you attack the neck, crushing attacks get a 1.5 times modifier. Cutting attacks get a 2 times modifier. Okay. Impaling attacks would get a standard 1 times modifier on the neck. Attacking arms or legs. Any type of poking damage at an arm or a leg. Oh, sorry, the neck. By the way, the neck is your normal modifier for piercing. Cutting and crushing get bonuses. But normal modifier for piercing and impaling is still, 1.5 or 2 or whatever it was? So the damage modifier standard. Impaling is 2. Piercing is 1, no modifier. But if we're looking at, if you stab somebody in the arm or leg, you actually do less damage with piercing than you would with cutting. So it goes back down to just 1. So Jared, for example, if you impale somebody in the torso, you get your 2 times modifier. If you impale them in the arm or the leg, you don't get a multiplier. Okay.
So for torso, even
without targeting, if you just hit the torso, you do get a 2 times modifier on the damage that gets through.
Yeah.
When you aim at a target, do you have to specify what body part you are aiming for, or is it aiming just you'll get your +1 and then you can pick where you're gonna actually target?
You get your +1 and then you can try to hit them wherever. You get your modifier for aiming regardless, right? You aim at a person, and then you can choose to when you actually roll for attack. That's when you say I'm trying to hit them in the leg or the hand or whatever.
So if I want to go for their heart, I don't have to evaluate or whatever. I can just go for it.
Yes, you can just go for the heart. Now, this is where evaluation might come in handy, for example. The vitals is a -3. If you evaluate for 3 turns and get a +3, you balance out on those 2. Arms or legs. The other thing is if you do more than half of their max HP in 1 strike. So if somebody hit Burkest for 4 hit points, that's more than half of his 6, it would cripple the limb and cause what's called a major wound. If you receive a major wound, you have to roll against your health to not get knocked down and stunned. And then if you cripple a limb, that limb is unusable until you have a physician care for you and heal it. You can recover your hit points, but the limb is still crippled. So if you use a potion or an elixir to recover hit points, that doesn't make your limb all of a sudden magically work. And then lastly, you can target hands or feet at -4. It's basically the same as an arm or a leg, except that it's even easier to cripple. It's greater than 1/3. So Burkest has 6 hit points, 1/3 is 2. So if somebody did 3 damage to Burkest's hand, his hand would be crippled, and he would get a major wound. The only other way to deliver a major wound is to deliver more than half of somebody's hit points in one attack. If somebody attacked Burkest's torso and did 4 damage, he would receive a major wound. He would have to roll against health to avoid knockdown and stunning. If he succeeded, he would not be knocked down or stunned. If he failed, he would be knocked down and stunned. Stunning means you can do nothing until you roll a successful health roll on one of your turns. You can still defend at -2, so you can still try to dodge, parry, or block attacks, but you can't do anything on your turn while you're stunned. Okay? Once you recover, then you still have to stand up to be able to attack again. So doing major wounds is kind of a big deal. So there's a lot of different rules that we've kind of gone through. I don't expect that we're all going to remember them at all times, and that's okay. But this way, when I say, hey, okay, you did this type of damage, multiply, do whatever, as we get better at it, it'll go faster. But And this also gives you some more options about what to target. You can purposely not kill somebody by targeting their hand, because if you cripple their hand, they can't hold their weapon. The last thing I'm going to talk about with targeting is disarming an opponent. You can attempt to hit their weapon to knock it out of their hands. So the first thing I do is roll to hit. You start off with a -2 modifier to hit, and then depending on the size of the weapon, you get an additional modifier. Close weapons are -5, so hitting a dagger is -5. Weapons with reach of 1, like most swords, is -4.
No,
and then weapons...
-5 is that on top of the -2?
Yes, this is on top of the -2.
Okay.
And then it goes all the way successfully up to, if you're hitting somebody who has a weapon that can somehow reach 5 tiles, that is a 0 modifier. It's a lot easier to hit that weapon. You know what I mean? If you do hit a weapon, then you roll a contest of weapon skills, just like you would on a feint. And if you win, then they lose their weapon.
And I assume it just drops to the ground on the same tile they are on?
Yes. If you fail when you are trying to disarm an opponent, if you crit fail, specifically, if you crit fail, you lose your weapon instead. So just...
My horn's gone fine.
My horn!
So yeah, if you try to disarm somebody, you crit fail on your roll, you lose your weapon.
Does that seriously mean I would lose my horn, or does that not?
You can't drop your weapon, so come on.
I'm pretty sure.
No, you can't.
Like, yes, your horn would get chopped off. I'd be like, well, I am never disarming.
Right? No. You have an advantage in that you can never lose your horn. Like, you can't drop it. Somebody could theoretically break it, but my assumption is the damage resistance is significantly high on that thing. So if we ever get to a point where I feel like it maybe should have broken, we'll roll against that and see what happens. Okay? The only other thing I want to add is, so somebody did do a dodge and retreat. You may use retreat as a modifier to any active defense once per turn. You can dodge and retreat, parry and retreat, block and retreat. If you do that, your active defense gets a +3 when you roll it, but you can only do it once per turn.
So how many actions do you have per turn? Is it just one?
You have one action that you take on your turn, but your turn is not just your action within that turn. When we say a turn, it's from when your action starts to when your next action starts.
Okay.
So, for example, if we were all surrounding Phelan trying to hit Phelan, he would be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people attacking. He would have to potentially defend against 5 attacks in one turn.
Okay, so you can only dodge and retreat once of those 5 attacks.
Yeah, he may retreat once. He can dodge, parry, or block with that retreat, but he can only do it once against all of those attacks. Then he has to use his normal ones. The other thing you can only parry at full once per turn. If you try to parry twice, your second parry will be at -4. And then your next parry will be again another -4. Okay? Because every time you parry, your weapon gets further and further out of line is the idea.
Okay.
If you are holding 2 weapons and you're ambidextrous, you can have a second parry without penalty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suck it, you one-handed nerds.
What else should we cover right now? Blocking. You can only block once per turn. So if you decide to go sword and board style, be aware you can only block once per turn. But your shield still adds +1 to all of your active defenses. So, for example, if you're dodging, as long as it's coming from either the side of your shield or in front of you, you still get your +1 to dodge. One of the things we haven't talked about yet is all-out defense. All-out defense is you aren't going to do anything on your turn, but you can choose all-out defense like you would choose all-out attack. That means is until the start of your next turn, you have 2 options. And you have to choose which one you're taking when you call all-out defense, okay? One, you can choose one defense that gets a +2 bonus until the beginning of your next turn. So if you choose dodge, your dodge gets a +2 until the beginning of your next turn. And you can dodge as many as you want, right? Or you can choose parry or you can choose block. It's up to you. Or you may choose to double defend, all right? Whenever you are attacked during that turn, then you may choose. You can use 2 different defenses. However, when you choose to double defend, you have to pick ahead of time what those 2 defenses are. So, for example, you may say, "I want to parry and dodge." Okay. Each attempt at parry will give you that -4. Okay. But your dodge would stay the same. So you'd have a chance to parry and dodge for everything, every attack that you receive. Or you may choose to dodge and block, right? So you'll try to dodge, and if your dodge fails, then you can try to block. Or you can say dodge and parry. So you'll dodge first, and if your dodge fails, then you can try to parry. So all-out defense has 2 options: a +2 bonus to one type of defense, or you can say that you're going to pick 2 defenses whenever you get attacked, and you have to declare what those 2 defenses will be. If you have a weapon in both hands, you may choose parry for both defenses. But remember, consecutive parries of the same weapon will give you a -4. All right. So we've talked about how to hurt other people, how to stab them, where to stab them, how to cut them, how to throw things at them, how to aim, and how to do a whole bunch of other things to hurt people. The problem with combat is people are going to be trying to hurt you too, and you will get hurt. So you need to learn how to take care of your buddies in basic first aid. Now, everybody should know basic first aid. But some of you, I believe, from your applications, know a wee bit more. So you'll be a wee bit more effective. For now, one of you gets to be the test dummy. Who's going to volunteer for that?
I kind of look off into the sky.
I say horses can't look up.
All right. Well, we're going to do Alexa. Alexa, you get to be the test dummy. So, the first step in first aid is to apply bandages. It takes about a minute to do it properly. Each of you can go up and try to apply bandages to Alexa. Pretend she's got a cut there on her lower calf and she's bleeding. Brookhest, why don't you go first?
Alright, so I apply a bandage to the wound on her calf.
Okay, so you're going to roll against your first aid skill.
Which I do not have.
It defaults IQ -4. Brookhest, if you're going to try to apply first aid, since you don't have the first aid skill, it would be IQ -4. So Sergeant Brockius takes a close look and examines what you've done. Hey, good enough. You've actually helped and stopped the bleeding. From a mechanical perspective, applying bandages recovers 1 hit point.
Dang, that's not much.
Right, it is
Speak
not.
for yourself, that's 1/6 of my health.
That is true. All right. Archibald, why don't you go ahead and do a quick practice and apply some bandages as well? You have first aid, right?
Yes.
So you'd roll against not IQ, you'd roll against your first aid skill.
And it would be -4 still? Or no, just be roll.
Yeah, you're just rolling. The default is IQ -4. Sergeant Barakius leans in close once you've finished. Good job there, boy. At least you can do that right.
I try.
All right. Amar, go ahead. Roll for first aid.
And I have that skill, right? So I should be able to.
Correct.
Oh, I don't have first aid, but I do have esoteric medicine. So it's magical or spiritual healing.
Okay, but first aid defaults to esoteric medicine skill. So esoteric medicine, your skill in first aid is the same as your skill in esoteric medicine.
Okay.
It also defaults to your physician skill or veterinary -4 skill. So if you're a physician or if you have esoteric medicine, you don't need first aid because you'll roll at that anyways.
Oh, that would have been good to know.
Well, you guys can make adjustments if you need to.
I succeeded!
All right, Sergeant Barakius leans down to look at your work. You did all right there. Maybe you guys should have been in the medic corps. All right, Unicorn. I don't think this is something you can do.
I just lean down and lick Alexa where her wound would be. And kind of look at you expectantly, like.
Roll a 1d6.
You give her fucking horse herpes.
Gonorrhea?
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
We all noticed a bunch of bumps around the uniforms.
Well, those things take time to show up, so you don't know yet whether or not she has it. Or whatever it was that I was rolling against. You just know that you had to roll for something.
Cool. Cool.
Man, horse disease.
All right. So now, you know how to help somebody out right away, but it doesn't matter. You can't just keep slapping bandages to make them feel better. Once you've applied bandages, the next step is to treat them for shock. Put their head up, make sure they stay comfortable, food, water, and take care of them. Every half hour, you need to check up on them to see how they're doing. Okay, so the second step to first aid is treating for shock. If you're treating for shock, every 30 minutes, you get to roll against your first aid skill to see how they do. Applying bandages is a one-time thing. It's not like if Alexa were actually hurt, all of you applying bandages would have done anything. Only one person would have healed 1 hit point. After that, she would have to be treated for shock. So I want each of you to take time and try to do what you would do if you're trying to treat Alexa here for shock. I'll watch you, and I'll tell you exactly how well you do.
So then that was the same as the first aid roll?
Buttercast, you're up first. Yes. Same thing as a first aid roll.
Which was IQ -4, correct?
For default, yes. You failed. If you fail your first aid for treating for shock, your target loses 2 hit points.
Oof.
Jesus, you fucking depressed her.
And then just kind of like weirdly gutturally growls at you.
Hey, do I look like a fucking medic?
So, Sergeant Barakius watches as you attempt to take actions you would for treating shock. Lad,
Like
you've
a
got to keep her feet up and make sure she has water. Try to do better next time, eh?
I mean, hey, water's hard to come by, no guarantees.
Sergeant Barakius just shakes his head. All right, Archibald. Why don't you go ahead and take a shot and show me how you treat for shock?
All right. Oh. There.
And you have a success. Now, if you succeed, you then roll a 1d6 -3 for how many hit points you heal. It's a minimum of 1. So now you're just going to roll 1d6. You can do that either using the GUI on the left or... So you would have healed her for 3 points. 3 hit points. So Sergeant Barakius watches as you apply, your basic training that you've had for first aid. You did really well there, boy. If I'd be happy to be under your care if I was out on the field injured. Truth of the matter is, though, with you lads, I'd just run away. I don't think I'd be happy to serve with any of you. All right. Amar, you're up next. Let's see what you can do. Success. Roll for healing. 1d6 minus 3. And a 3. So you would have healed her for 1 hit point. Excellent work. It seems that at least you got a few skills. All right. And Phelan, I don't know that there's much that you can do when it comes to first aid, even for treating for shock. You might be able to put their head up and you might be able to put their feet up. You can try to see what you do. I'll watch how you do. So Phelan, because you can't do things like give them food, give them water, you can roll. You cannot do bandages, but if you want to, move them into the shade, do things like that, put their feet up, make sure they're comfortable, etc. I'm assuming you can nudge. You can use your horn to move some things. You can roll at IQ. What is your IQ?
8.
Okay. You have to get a crit success.
Don't ever treat me for shock. Because I will lose a third of my health.
And it's a crit success!
What? No, it's not.
No, that was a D6.
3s and 4. Oh, you got to roll 3d6. Yeah, you can't roll 1. A 4, you got to roll 3d6. That is not a crit success. Sergeant Brachus just laughs to himself. I'd never thought horses belonged on the battlefield except for riding anyways.
Say that to my horn, you bitch.
Oh, lad, you might hit hard, but I promise you I'd still put up a fight.
Do we want to become deserters right away?
Wait, what did you say?
Whoa, I'm not...
I said I could go for dessert today.
He kind of rolls his eyes and lays down next to Alexa and puts his head in her lap.
Alexa pets your neck. All right, lads. At this point, there's not much more I can teach you. You've got the basics. After this, it's just going to be applying it. Now you can go home and get some rest. You'll be reporting tomorrow for your first patrol through the city. You'll be reporting to Lieutenant Eliga. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Be here bright and early.
I have a question.
What's the question?
No, they have.
Could Alexa treat herself?
So you can stop your own bleeding. That's about as best as you can do. Because you need to rest to be treated for shock. If you're the one sitting there treating yourself, making sure you've got food and all that, you aren't going to be treating yourself, are you?
I give a unicorn thumbs up, which is really just me kind of gently stomping one foot on the ground.
Sergeant Baracus has no idea what you're doing and just stares at you. All right. Are there any other questions any of you have? And they can be in character, out of character is fine. If you guys have questions about anything we covered or anything in character, feel free.
Am I getting paid for today, sir?
Oh, you want to know about your pay? You get paid 1,200 gold monthly.
Can
So
we
is
get
be
that?
paid?
Can we
Is
get
that
that
a-
weekly?
You'll be paid at the end of the month.
Because you don't expect us to live a month. Got it.
Well, I suppose you've already been living now, haven't you? I hope you have something set aside. You're the ones that decided to join the army. If you didn't talk to your recruiter about the pay, that's on you.
Well,
I can
shit.
start to walk out.
I start for the exit of the tent.
I do too.
As I leave you just quietly here. Peace.
Get out of my head, you dumb horse.
Not a horse.